What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is Monday, February 27th. Man, where is the year going? We're already almost done February. And what's that? Like a sixth of the year? Yeah, we're like a sixth of the way through the year. Today we have a very special guest calling in all the way from Italy. He has been having an absolutely bananas year. One of the top scorers in the Italian league. And as of a couple weeks ago, I'm not sure about right now, I haven't checked the stats, he was the top scoring left side in the Italian league, one of the greatest U-Sport players of all time, none other than Mr. Eric Loeppky. Eric, welcome back to the show. How are you doing? It's great to see you. Great to see you healthy. How are things?
Thanks, man. I appreciate that introduction. Yeah, things are good. It's great to be back on the show. It's been a great year for me. So yeah, I'm just excited to chat all things volleyball.
Absolutely. Now, first and foremost, let's cover the health things. The past couple of weeks, you've been dealing with a bit of a bacterial infection. That's why we haven't seen you on the court all that much.
Yeah, it was a bit confusing, but basically I had a viral infection and it ended up being like the mono strain.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, and then it was causing some like inflammation as well. Um, So they're just kind of dealing with that now. But I mean, apparently you can be out for like a month with that. So they're not too surprised that I've been like recovering slowly. But I seem to be on the mend, and yeah, hopefully it will be good for the last couple games of the season here.
Yeah, that final push. Currently playing for Volleyball Taranto, not Toronto. And
Yeah.
it's really close. It's Traranto. Now that team has no Toronto was in the SuperLega last year, right?
Yeah, this is their
Yeah,
second year. Their second year.
their second year, and I mean, you guys are fighting to stave off relegation. So it's been
Hmm.
an all right year for your team, but it's been a fantastic year for yourself. Currently, you're sitting in 12th in overall scoring with 282 points, averaging over 4 points at set at 4.15. That is pretty ridiculous. How you feel? How have you been feeling about the season so far? How have things been going for you?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's kind of pros a weird balance because you're trying to do well yourself, and move up yourself. But also you have your team and that's important as well. So yeah, for me individually, just from a straight statistical perspective, it's been great. I feel like yeah, the years kind of zoomed by and it just kind of was like good game, good game, good game. Kind of kept rolling with the good games and but with the team, it's been tough. This is my third year in Italy and it's for sure the most stacked I think the league has been from
Good league this year,
top
yeah.
to bottom. It's like it's really tough. Like in my first year, there was no relegation because of COVID, but last year, like Ravenna was for sure the bottom team, and there was some good breaks. But basically, this year, other than Perugia, teams are like beating each other. Like it's like yeah, it's wild, man.
Well, I mean,
It's been a crazy year.
even Perugia's losing now, right? They got three
Yeah,
donged hard by Piacenza in the cup this weekend. I mean, Piacenza had kind of
yeah,
their wake up weekend.
yeah,
With that roster, you could kind of tell it was coming. But man,
yeah,
like two fantastic matches for Piacenza this weekend. But you're right. It has been absolutely stacked. You guys have suffered a little bit of injury bug. You had Tommaso
yeah.
Stefani, was one of the top scorers in the league, go down. You bring in
Hmm.
what is, I don't know, just another French stud, Ibrahim Lawani. What's it been like
Man,
to watch that kid go off?
he's just come in like super calm guy, just has zero fear. He just balls out. Doesn't matter if he gets totally hammer blocked. He's balled out now. Like I think he's got 100 points in like 4 games.
Yeah, 100,
Like
102 points in 4 games, and he's averaging 6 points a set. Right,
yeah, it's
Yeah, that's nuts. The next highest guy is 4.88. So he's averaging over a point a set more than Derlich, who's the in second place. That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it has helped
Yeah,
that you haven't been around to carry some of that offensive load too. So they have to chuck him a lot of balls, but he's smooth. He's
yeah.
fun to watch.
He's really smooth. He's not that big. Like he's maybe 6'4", 6'5", but
Oh, really?
he just kind of floats like super smooth, hits like really nice shots. Like yeah, he's a sweet player and he's young too. I think he's 21, 22. Like he's gonna have a great career, I think. So yeah, it's been awesome having him here.
Yeah. I mean, man, that's exactly what we need, though. Just another French all star.
Yeah,
To,
seriously.
to add to their embarrassment of riches. Like if you look at the right side, they've got Boyer, they've got Patry, and now they got Lawani as well. Like who do you pick? It's literally you can't lose from
I
all those
know.
guys.
Man, it was so funny when we played. I wasn't there, but he told me he played Modena. He's like, I'm like, yeah. So like, you talked to Yanni, like the head coach of Modena, because he's coaching the French team, and he's like, yeah, like he introduced himself to me because like, I'm like, how did he doesn't even know who you are yet? Like, you haven't even met him. I'm like, that's crazy. Like, you're this good, and like now you're kind of like, he's telling you, yeah, like maybe be ready for the summer if
Yeah,
you'd like
maybe
to come.
averaging
Yeah,
averaging 6 points in the best league in the world,
yeah,
and maybe
it's
be ready.
insane.
Yeah, that's nuts. So you think you're going to be back this season to help with that final anti-relegation push?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the Perugia game, but I'm really hoping for the Milano game. So time will tell. Time will tell. I'm meeting with the docs tomorrow. So yeah,
Fair enough. That makes sense. There's only like two games left in the season. You guys are one
yeah,
point outside of relegation. You guys got that big win over Siena a couple weeks ago or last weekend. There wasn't anything going on this weekend because of the cup. It was the
yeah.
weekend before that. How much does that mean? Like, I know it's tough in pro because this is your third year of professional volleyball. It's your third team. Um, and you talked about that balance between yourself and your team. So how much does it mean to you to help your team not get relegated?
Ah, man, for me it means a lot. Like even though um I might not be sticking around next year, I think it like there's guys here who some guys are from Toronto. They have their family here. They have their house set up here. There's guys who have contracts next year. Um, and yeah, I think it's kind of like a pay my respect to the team to do as much as I can to and to the guys to help. So I did everything I could. I was still pretty sick. I was getting like an IV every day just to try to juice my body up to get going. But it was yeah, I literally couldn't swing. So it was but yeah, it means a lot to me. And I know the guys felt that for me. So it's good.
Hey, you said you might not be there next year. Do you have any insight on that? Can we talk about that? You got anything to announce here? Come on, give us some tea.
Uh, I don't think I can announce anything yet. Maybe if we want to talk after the show, we can.
Okay, yeah, I like that. I'll be your secret keeper until the time comes. Like let's talk about Toronto a little bit because you said it's a newer team in the league. How has it been now? You've been to a few different clubs. How has the experience been in Toronto?
Overall, it's been great. I mean, they really just gave me the chance, I think, to kind of play with no fear and just like kind of put me out there and trusted me. So from a volleyball aspect, it's been great. It's in the south of Italy, so it's
Hmm.
it's a it's a big difference in just like culture. I was in the north for my other 2 years, and most of the teams are in the north for the most part. So it's been different. Like I live like a 3 minute walk to the beach. I got like a house instead of an apartment. Like it's just different. Like the life is really slow. Siesta's huge. Dinners are 8:30, 9 p.m. Like
Whew.
it's just yeah, it's a different lifestyle, but I mean, I like it. It's great for the family. And the club has been awesome. They've been super supportive of me, and and try to do everything to help me play my best. So I have no complaints.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I do think that we need more teams in the south of Italy, right?
I think so too.
Like that sounds awesome. It sounds like a good life. Before we talk about more volleyball stuff, let's talk about the family real quick.
Okay.
Last year you welcomed your first son into the world, which is amazing. What's that like? Been having to balance. Before it was just you and your wife Sam. Um, what's that been like? Having to balance a family and having a son and being a dad. And we were talking before the show. It's crazy to think that you have a son now. I remember back when you were playing. What was it when you were 16, 17, and I did my first interview with you
Yeah.
after nationals in Calgary back in 2015. And now you're a dad. So what's that been like?
Okay, quick side note. My wife was like, "Who are you doing a podcast with?" I'm like, the guy, like the interview you always make fun of me for when I was like 16 years old. I'm like, with that guy.
When you're just holding your backpack the entire time.
Yeah. Looks like the first time I've ever talked to someone in front of a camera. But anyways, yeah, with the family's great. With my son, it's been so he was born 3 days after the season ended last year. So um, yeah, it's a huge change. The summer was really hard. I think it really it wore me a lot. Like being apart for those kind of like long parts is really difficult. And but honestly, over here, like I feel like he's one of my greatest motivations. Like to just like go play and do the best I can because yeah, he's just I don't know, he's just this little precious baby that has all he knows is him, me, and my wife. So, and he's over here with us, and he really helps me like take my mind off volleyball. Like I come home, and it's like, okay, before he was born, me and Sam would always talk volleyball. She's a big volleyball player, so it's always talk volleyball. But it's just really caused me to kind of separate my work from home life. Like I have no choice. So I found it super beneficial. It's almost like yeah, I come home and it's dad time, family time, and then I go to work and get back on track. So yeah, I think it's been huge for me this year, honestly.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. Obviously, like, do we have a future national team player? First and foremost, do we have a future national team player? In the makes here because volleyball family. Your wife, she played at Minnesota. You guys met actually when she was playing for Team USA, correct?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
All right. So like clearly there's some talent in his genes as well.
Yeah,
But like, can we go on record now to say that he's Canadian? Like, where was he born? Was he born in
he was
Canada?
born in he was born in Italy,
Oh,
and he
okay.
has yeah, and he has his American passport.
Oh,
That's the one we got to get back. It's easiest to get the mother. So he's got his American passport, but he can get his Canadian one also. So
yeah. Let's
he's
get
got
on that.
options.
Let's get on that, please. Come on.
All right.
Like, we don't need another Kame Shulk situation over here.
Yeah.
Although Kame, we I know I love you, and I'm sure for that Trinity Western Spartan family it runs deep. So I'm sure you got some love for Kame Shulk too.
Absolutely.
But like, yeah, let's just make sure that he wears the maple leaf. Because we can't be letting talent like that slip out of our fingers and go play to the enemy for the enemy to the south. Now you've
All
got
right.
you've got a lot of teammates. Like look at Sclater and Van Berkel and these type of guys who are also parents and they currently play
Hmm.
volleyball professionally. Are those guys that you kind of lean on, and do you ever talk to them and kind of talk about how do I balance this? Especially you mentioned this summer on the road. Was that something that you talked to with guys like Lucas and Sclate to just figure out how to manage that different lifestyle?
Yeah, I think yeah, I reached out for sure. And yeah, it's just it's different. Like you go from like only worrying about yourself kind of to worrying about someone else. And I think everyone has a different perspective on it, and everyone I feel has different kind of views on what they're called to do. So it's something that I still work through. Like like back when I'm 20 years old, it's like, oh yeah, I'll play national team till I'm 36, whatever, like no problem. But now it's like, okay, I got a lot of things to think about. I got to think about what's best for my career, what's best for also my family. So I think it really makes decisions a little more short term. Just kind of taking one choice at a time. Okay, we're going to do this together, and then yeah, move on. So that's kind of how I see it and how it's changed. But it just for me, it just I have to think about my family as well as my career. So balancing those two is hard.
Yeah, that's very fair. Now, you talked about last summer how it was hard for you, and I will say personally, last year at Padova, your year was all right.
Yeah,
If I can say that, and then this summer playing for the national team, the little bit that you had at VNL, and then World Championships might have been some of the worst volleyball I've seen from you over your
yeah.
career. Um, you know, so how were you able to get back into that mindset and play? Because I have been, you know, very not surprised, because I know, like, I've watched you for so long and I know what you're capable of, but so happy to see you back in your EFL. For
Yeah.
those who know, if you know, right? We don't really need to say what that means, right? But like there was like you when you last year when you played Italy, for example, at the World Championships, that might have
hmm
been hands down one of the worst matches I've ever seen you play. And we talked about it on the
hmm
9x9, the podcast afterwards, and I was worried about your future. Like in Italy, I was worried about your future as a pro volleyball player, because I was like, man, like this is when you have all of the coaches in the league are watching you, all the managers, all the owners, everything. And it was one of your worst performances, whether it's in a Spartan jersey, a Team Canada jersey, whatever. From what I've
hmm
seen, I'm sure you've had other bad ones as well. But then this year, we've talked about it. You're one of the best players in the league. You're putting up multiple 20-point performances, kind of night after night. Is it something that you cognizantly did? Was it a switch that you knew you had to make because of how poor your summer was?
Yeah, I think the way I see it, I kind of see it as like, okay, my Ravenna year, kind of first year in the league, just feeling like trying to just hold on, like trying to adjust as fast as I can. I had high hopes for the Padova year, and I felt like I started off poorly, but then like kind of under the radar, had put together like a good string of games the last like 6, 7 games of the season. I felt like I was like playing good. Uh, Not playing like what I knew I could play, but playing fine. Um, and and I think then going into the summer, I had okay, my son was born. I was dealing with all of that and adjusting to that. But then also I felt like okay, like I'm starting to blossom into the player I want to be internationally. And I felt I joined the team late. I only played the last two weeks in Nations League, and I felt like I was playing catch up. So kind of like joining the group late, playing catch up. I think that Nations League was okay. Like I didn't play terrible, but I think I played okay in some matches. And then had that break, and then going into the training block for World Champs, I felt like I felt like I was just like the best player in the gym every day. Like that's how I felt. Like I was like, okay, this is it. And I remember talking with Ben, like he's like, man, you have like I can just see you're right there. You just need to show the world what you can do. And kind of went to World Champs and just laid an egg. Like did not show the world what I can do. Did not. I felt like I had the jips. Like I even in serve and pass and stuff. Like just like I'm like what is wrong with me? Like I feel like I can't even see properly. Like I didn't know what was going on with me, if I'm being honest. So I don't know. And yeah, we were done early. It just kind of was like boom, done, home September 1st. I'm like, wow, that's insane. I sucked. I I totally I felt like I totally let our team down, let the program down, and then kind of just regrouped. I'm like, okay, well, I got to go to Italy, and then I don't know. I just felt like I found that same groove I had training, and then I finally kind of broke free of showing that in a match this year, and then just kept snowballing all year. That's kind of how I see it. I don't know if that makes sense to
Yeah,
you.
yeah, it makes
Um,
it makes absolute sense because I know like right after the B team, like when you guys were in that training block for World Championships, the B team was competing in national in Gatineau, and actually leaving on the last night of that event, I popped my tire leaving the parking garage, and so I had to go get
oh
it.
no,
Yeah, it was it was a bit of an ordeal, but so I had to go get that all repaired, and I did it at the Canadian Tire right across. So I like walked across, I watched a bit of training with you guys, and I went and talked to Ben, and he was telling me, he's like, man, you know, like Eric has really gotten into his groove. Like he's really pushing Mar to be one of our best players, and then you know we open World Championships, and it's against Italy, and you're right, you laid an egg, but as we talked
yeah,
about, you've been unreal this year, and you know we have the Discord account within Volleyball Source, and even the you know let's just say that the Canadian people within the Discord are big EFL fans. You know, we're a little bit biased, and we support you no matter what. But even the internationals have had to come around and concede that you know what, like yeah, he's pretty damn good. And you
uh,
know, people have been watching some Toronto matches because of it, and yeah, it's been good. So it's been a lot of fun to watch you bounce back. And I mean, I do think like you know last year you're at Padova. I do think that there's like a sophomore slump is a thing. You know,
yeah,
there's a reason that's there, and you see it whether it's music or athletics, and we see it you know in volleyball, we see it in so many different other sports as well, and I think it's super easy to go in and perform well, and I fully agree. You know, your first year in Ravenna was pretty good. You're on a young team, and you're one of those guys. Last year was all right, um,
hmm
but it's been really nice just to watch you bounce back, um, and kind of as you said blossom into the player that you know you can be. Do you feel like you have more confidence now after you've put in this season, like moving forward, whether you know if it's in Italy or another league or with the national team this summer potentially? Do you feel like you have that confidence back?
yeah, absolutely. I feel like playing this year and just reflecting on the year. I'm like, okay, like I can. It's not like a fluke anymore, you know. Like it's not like I'm. Oh, he had one game where he played good in Italy. It's like, no, I can play good in this league, and it's the best league in the world, arguably. And I feel like that gives me a lot of confidence, like going forward into playing anyone. I think for international competition or in the Italian league or yeah, I feel like it does give me confidence and gives me just kind of I don't know reassurance that I know what I can do now, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, fully. I mean, we've always known you could do it, but now and now you could know you could do it on a regular basis. Now, let's go back to World Championships a little bit because let's be
Okay.
honest, it wasn't just you that laid an egg. It was kind of the entire team. It was a tough go, losing out in the first round like that. What was the vibe amongst the guys? Like, what was the feeling? You know, especially heading into that Turkey match, was there apprehension? Were you guys feeling confident? Like, kind of, I haven't really talked to anyone about this, so like, kind of like bring me behind the door a little bit because it was definitely one of the toughest tournaments to watch on my end
Yeah.
in my decade plus of watching Canadian volleyball. It was one of the hardest to watch.
Yeah. Man, okay, I know everyone's gonna have like different opinions about it, obviously. But from my perspective, there just seemed like a disconnect between we didn't seem to be a team. There seemed to be a disconnect between people thinking certain things about how we should run something, or it just there was no we weren't one, and I think that's super hard to play for a team who's not on the same page. And we're all bros, like we all like each other. It just it seemed like the volleyball stuff just seemed to there was some conflicts. Guys are maybe some guys aren't speaking up about what they think, and you can tell, or some guys are, just stuff that we would probably need to work through. And going into world champs, it's like we were even struggling to train well the whole summer, and then finally we like started kind of practicing well, like but it just wasn't enough. I felt like we were just scrambling to put together something, and I think it showed. Um, but yeah, that's my opinion. Yeah, personally, I felt yeah, just not comfortable, not prepared for to like go to battle with the team. Um, and I think in those moments, like you just need to be able to go to battle with the six, seven guys on the floor, and I think if you can go fight, you're gonna be okay. Maybe you're not gonna to win, but you're gonna like if we would have lost like playing well and playing hard together, I think that would have been different. But I don't feel like that was the case.
100%.
Um, yeah, it seemed there was a lot like of tentative individual play, not clicking, no connections. Like it wasn't like, oh man, like we played really well, but Turkey played out of their mind. Like it wasn't that.
Yeah, 100%.
So
And I mean, let's be honest here, especially like whenever you put on that Team Canada jersey, we're not gonna outskill a team ever. Like especially at the World Championship level, we're not gonna be more skilled than a team in general. We're not gonna be more athletic than a team in general. Like one of the tenets of like one of the core tenets that we have within our volleyball system is that unity and that unisum of and that cohesiveness of the team, and how
mhm.
you guys all work together. So if that isn't happening, then one of those core blocks of what the program is built upon just isn't there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Now, obviously, the big elephant in the room with all of this is, of course, Coach Benjo. Now, if you followed anything that I've done around that whole situation, it was I've clearly like voiced my opinion that I think letting him go was the wrong move. Um, were you surprised when that news came out that he was let go, not even a year after being named head coach of the national team?
Yeah, yeah. I Yes and no. Trying to think back to everything. I mean, I feel like he felt that because of our result, he saw it coming a little bit. Um, but I didn't think they would do it because there seemed to be so much promise of like, okay, like Volleyball Canada's turning a new leaf. We're hiring from the inside. We have the man he's gonna bridge the national team and the U sports. Um, and it's gonna be 2028 seemed to be the goal. That was kind of the feeling like from the beginning. But then everything got so hyper focused on the results of world champs and and Paris, and yeah, it just happened. So am I surprised? I mean, at the end of am I surprised now? No. At the time, I was like, wow, they really did it. Like, wow. Huge Ben Josephson fan. I wouldn't be the player who I am today without him. So, um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Now you talked about like some of that discord in the room. There was a lot of talk at the beginning of the season amongst people about the new system and running like a much faster offense and a different offense. Especially kind of in that first weekend of first week of VNL in Ottawa, where we lost the first 3 games, and it seemed like the team did kind of struggle. Was some of that discord happening in the room and some of that lack of cohesion based around kind of his coaching philosophies and what they were trying to do? Was there disagreements about what the team was trying to do as opposed to what certain guys thought the team was supposed to be doing?
Yeah, I definitely, there was for sure. Like, I mean, I think that's going to happen with any team and any new coach. And I think that there's always going to be kind of the old guys and the new guys. And I think, yeah, I think Ben brought a lot of change, and I don't think he anticipated it would hurt us that much
Mm-hmm.
in competition, um, because it hurt us a lot, I think. But yeah, so there for sure there was some guys you could tell who were like, I don't know about this, and I think that's one of my beliefs of why world champs are so bad is because you can't have I don't know about this attitude going into one of the biggest tournaments. You have to be going in like, yeah, we got this, like we're gonna ball out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the way I see it. I think there's just division, just that never got sorted out.
Yeah, 100%. You could kind of feel it too, and it was frustrating to watch because, like as you said, you're a huge Ben Josephson fan. So am I. Especially like for me being with the B team in the summertime and watching them succeed the way they did at the Pan Am Cup and just
Yeah,
ball out
they did awesome.
yeah, and like that to me, like I haven't seen a B team like that since probably 2012. And that 2012 B team is like Rudy Verhoof
Okay.
and like
Yeah, yeah.
Steve Marshall and like Lucas Van Berkel, and like Nick Hogue was on that B team. TJ Sanders, like that was the core. Add Gavin in and a couple other pieces, but that was the core that went to Rio and really changed everything around Canadian volleyball. And the way I saw that the B team was acting, and you had the buy-in with different coaches from around the country, and you're right, like I was very excited about kind of what this new look was going to be. And you're very right. I think we may have sacrificed our future for trying to win now. But then again, it was tough at times. I do think, obviously I haven't talked to Ben since our chat just before world champs, and I do think that if he had to do it again, there would be certain things that were done differently. But at the same time, it's
Hmm.
I think it kind of sends a message from Volleyball Canada that they don't necessarily think that Canadian volleyball and U Sports volleyball is good enough. And
Yeah.
that's a little bit tough because, considering how many like we're when you look at the Olympics, Volleyball Canada, like the men's national team specifically, is the only team that has all of their athletes who have stemmed from U Sport programs. And in Tokyo, Shawan was the only one who hadn't
Yeah.
been in a U Sport program, and that's just because he went directly to play professionally. Everyone else had come up through that system, and no other Canadian sport can say that. So I'd love to see us like double down on ourselves. And I know that was tough, and I
I
know
know,
that,
man.
yeah. But then again, I mean, I do think I'm really happy that with the recent announcement that Benjo is now signed with the University of Kentucky, he's going down to coach at the NCAA. I know that was also one of his big things. Now, with the national team, first and foremost, you mentioned it. Is there a plan to play for the national team this summer? Are you gonna take a summer off maybe and just be a dad, or you gonna go into battle again, because it's gonna be a big summer with VNL and North Sea champs and the Olympic qualifiers.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest with you, I'm trying to work through that right now. I haven't spoke to many people about it, but yeah, I'm really taking some time to, I think, kind of analyze what I want to do with my summer. So I don't have an answer for you now. I do have hopes of playing international volleyball again, but I don't know, man. I can't give you a hard answer right now.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, there's a lot on the line. I do think it's so tough. Like, you don't get an off season. You don't get any, like, especially in a summer like this where you're going to finish your pro league. We're going to go almost straight into VNL. There's a little bit of time between VNL and NORCECA champs at the end of August, and then you go right into the Olympic qualifier, and then you go right back into your pro league. So you don't get an off season. You have no time with your family. You have a brand new son, and it's tough. It really is. As much as I've said it before, as much as I love VNL and I love that much volleyball in the middle of the summer, I do think in a lot of ways it's detrimental to our sport, because it doesn't allow any off season. It doesn't allow for any recovery. No other international sport has an annual league like that where you have to play your best players, because it matters for rankings and whatnot. And I think if volleyball wants to be serious long term, we need to take care of our players better and unfortunately get rid of the VNL.
Yeah, man. I've never thought about getting rid of the VNL, but I think it would just, man, it would create such a. I feel like it's just coming to a point where teams aren't going to have some of their best players because it's just not sustainable. Um, and that's just the way it is. But it's not sustainable to do that for 12 months a year, year after year. Like there has to be some sort of break. And even just from the injury side of things, it's not smart.
100%.
And yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah. Sorry, you go.
No, I fully agree. Like, even if we look at our own national team, and last year, we talk about all the change on the national team, but we didn't even talk about how much personnel change. Like those core
Mm,
guys like Gord and Vigrass and Marshall and Blair. Marshall and Blair were both injured. Vigrass and Gord had retired from the national team maybe a little bit earlier than we would have thought. And I definitely think a lot of that's due to just the constant grind of playing professional volleyball and just going nonstop and over and over again. I mean, we're seeing, like, if we're talking about Canadian terms, do you know who Andre Brown is playing at Friedrichshafen this year?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, like, Andre is a guy who, he was a part of that. We talk about that 2012 B team. He was a part of that 2012 B team. Um,
Hmm.
but a guy that's never played on the national team and has just spent his summers hanging out, relaxing, working out, getting better, who has worked his way up through professional ranks. And, this past Champions League, he was the top blocker, like had the most blocks
Wow.
in the Champions League, and yet has never put on, like, since that time back in 2012 with the B team, has never put on a Team Canada jersey, and has just been
Yeah.
allowed to, like, hone his craft and get better, whereas the top players aren't allowed. And I mean, Engapeth has gone on record many times say it. I'm pretty sure Bruno has as well. It's just that
Bruno, yeah.
there's so much volleyball, and there's too much volleyball. I honestly think, like, especially for me, that's a weird thing for a guy like me to say, but
Yeah.
I honestly think that there's too much volleyball.
Yeah. Man, like it's important those top guys say it too because guys like Ngapeth and Bruno, like they go from Champions League to like those guys are going far, like
Yeah.
into the spring, and then like their national teams need them. Like if well, they don't need them, they have stacked national teams, but they keep going, and it's yeah, it's really difficult, I think. And yeah, even with the Gord thing, I actually talked to him when we played them a couple months ago, and he was like, "Yeah, like, man, it's hard to commit." Sorry, I'm gonna call it here.
Oh, good.
Um, it's hard to commit to like when you commit to that quad, like you're giving up so much. And I think for him, it was like I just didn't have any more juice to commit to another cycle. So, and that's totally understandable. Like he gave the national team everything,
Everything.
for
Yeah.
a good 10 years. So like to get in, like eventually you're gonna run out of juice. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, talking about Gord, he gave everything and then some, right? He was
Yeah,
perpetually injured, and he was one of the bricklayers of that program, and he's
yeah,
he's he's done so much, so he deserves that time off, and and especially like in volleyball, like especially Canadian volleyball too, because if you look
yeah,
at teams like Poland and Italy and France and whatnot, they have so much depth that, especially for VNL, like Poland VNL first week last year was none of their top guys. Like they had no Semeniuk, no Slivka, no Kaczmarek, no Janusz, no the name the names go down the list, but there's so much quality within that program that they have the ability to run their B guys and still be fine. But also this is volleyball we're talking about. You guys don't have private jets.
yeah,
You don't have $1 million facilities that you can go back to and have all of that recovery. Like
yeah,
oftentimes you guys are taking buses to matches and you're flying coach, and it's a difficult travel schedule. So it's just burning the oil at either ends. And I
100%.
when guys tell me that they want to retire from the national team or not play international ball, it makes perfect sense to me, because we're asking so much of our athletes, and at the end of the day, athletes are people too, and they need to have
Hmm.
that chance to be people. Speaking of the national team, and your future for this summer is a little up in the air. We do have a new coach, Tuomo Semurvuo, who's the head coach at Zoxa right now. Has he reached out to you at all? Have you spoken to him about the upcoming year, or anything like that?
I haven't spoke to him yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I know who he is. I mean, I know playing for him would be absolutely incredible. I've heard he's a sweet guy, sweet player. Or he was a sweet player. And I know I would probably learn and benefit a lot from him. So, um, yeah, it's for me, that's the tough part about it, because it's like, yeah, obviously I want to learn and play for him, but it's like that's not what it comes down to. It's not like, oh, I'm not going to play because I don't like the coach. Like that's the least of my worries.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and sorry, I'm so fired up about this topic, but like going back to it, like Canada, like too, is like all these guys in Italy, like they all like, oh yeah, they live a couple hours from where they were born. Like, like, and they're playing in this league all year, and just the like that factor to it is so huge. Canada's such a big country. Like people got like the guys out west, like spending their summers so far away from family.
Hmm.
I don't know, like it's tough. Like I feel like that's where we have our back against the wall with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But sorry, I'm just fired up about that. But
Well,
yeah, with the new coach, heard a lot of good things about him. And yeah, I know I would really love working with him.
yeah. And no, but you, like if you want to like continue with that like fully, because like for you play like training in Gatineau and playing in Ottawa, which is basically the same thing across the river each other, is thousands of kilometers away from home. Winnipeg is so far,
Yeah,
and Manitoba is so far from Ottawa, and sure, I'm sure if you play VNL, then you've got your parents and stuff come in, and obviously your wife and kids, but you don't have that home feeling, or you don't get to go back to Langley, which is even further, right? Like
yeah,
like these guys in Italy, they don't know. They don't know,
no,
right? It's not like Italy's smaller than Ontario. You can go
yeah.
from tip to top in Italy, and you wouldn't even get from like you couldn't drive from Ottawa to Winnipeg in that time. So
Oh, it's insane.
yeah,
It's
it
insane. Like me and my family, we live in Minneapolis. Like we have a house in Minneapolis. Um,
don't do this to me,
and,
Eric. Like, come on.
and no, what I'm saying is
True North song and free.
it's
Let's go.
it's close. It's close to where I'm from. I'm
Yeah.
from Steinbach. It's like a 6 hour drive. And I tell guys that here, and they're like, "What? Like that's close? Like 6 hours? Like that's like a week trip for me. I'd never do that. Like for a couple days, for a weekend. I'm like, no, dude, like I used to drive like 24 hours just to drive up to school, like with my car. So
Yeah.
like,
Bro,
yeah, it's insane.
6 hours is a club tournament. You know how many times I had to play like
Yeah,
club tournaments, like from Ottawa, having to play club tournament in Niagara, and you drive down
yeah,
6 hours the day before, even more if you're driving through Toronto in the traffic, and then you play a club
yeah.
tournament all day. You leave at like 9 p.m. You get home at like 3, 4, 5. So like, man, these Europeans, they got it easy.
Oh, they got it so easy, man.
Yeah.
So easy.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
especially too, with the bulk of the VNL schedule, because this year you got Ottawa, and then Orléans, France, and then
Hmm.
to the Philippines. So you've got to go 1, 2, 3. You're playing in like literally 3 different continents on 3 different parts of the world. That's so much travel, and
Yeah.
and a lot to do. So yeah, it's understandable. I'll be the first one to tell you
Yeah.
that if you don't want to play for it would hurt. Trust me, it hurts the national team. I won't mince any words about that. It definitely hurts our chances a little bit. But is it something that maybe you wouldn't play like VNL, but would be around and available for the Olympic qualifiers?
I don't know. I haven't talked to them about it yet. So I think yeah, we'll see. And I think I'm hoping this health stuff isn't too serious either, that I don't have to kind of recover from that. But yeah, we'll see. I think just trying to take it one day at a time, trying to finish up here and then kind of regroup. But man, back to the VNL stuff. I know what I actually loved was when we had the bubble in Rimini. Like it it sucked that there was no fans and like all the COVID stuff, whatever. But like having everything in one place, I think is so cool. Like if you could like do that for fans too, like just make it a volleyball hub for like a month,
Hmm.
I think it would be epic instead of because the travel is what's so hard on the athletes too. Like just traveling normally with time change sucks. Like you're tired, you're whatever, but like you said, we're not flying first class or we're going all over the world. Like it's not like we're going to Europe. We're going to Philippines. We're going to Japan. We're going Europe, South America. It's everywhere, and it's a lot of travel, and that's hard for guys to recover. So I was a huge fan of having it all at one spot. I think they could do something really cool. Maybe they do two spots. I don't know, so they can spread the love a bit. But
Yeah,
if you only had to travel once, I think that would be pretty cool.
maybe just make it a little bit shorter too, right?
Yeah,
We don't need 15 games. Like once again, like
yeah,
this is coming from someone who, like, I love the month of June for that reason. It's just
yeah,
volleyball nonstop. Like I'm a kid in a candy store when it comes to Ottawa VNL. It's in my hometown. I like
yeah.
for me that's like that's a hometown thing. I get to go see all of my friends and former teammates and whatnot. But man, it's so tough. That would be cool if we could find like maybe just like maybe only play like 6 games instead of like 15. It would just
Yeah,
it would make a little sense. You're right. That Rimini VNL was pretty dope. Um, I wish they could bring it back. Because especially
I
like
know.
I VNL must lose money because how many times have you played in like more or less empty gyms for VNL
Oh
matches?
man, like huge gyms. You get lucky if you play the home team, really.
Yeah.
And like not even every home team. Like if you play the home team in a good volleyball country, like if you play the home team in Japan, Brazil, Poland, Italy, maybe. Like that's kind of it, I think. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. I think it'd be cool if they switched it up, made it less, just went like super basic, like round robin, and then like cool playoffs at a different location.
Hmm.
Um, and if and like there's a lot of super fans, I think that would make the trip too. Like there's instead of going all over the place, they just have to go to one spot.
Hmm.
And now that the streaming and everything's so good, I think with Volley World. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, man.
What's the best place that you've played? Like if you as a hostile as a hostile environment, what's the best one that you've played and be like, yo, this is dope.
I think I think the two to me, Japan is like they're just obsessed with you. Like it's just the coolest thing. Like they like you're like so famous to them there, and you're it's like they're so passionate about volleyball. Like they love it. They're there to cheer and go crazy, and they love cool plays, and they always pack it out. I think Japan is very unique. But I would say also Poland was pretty crazy for me.
Yeah.
That was the first that was my first experience ever with the senior team was Huber Wagner, Poland,
Hmm.
2018. And we played Poland the first game, and they're like tailgating and like like partying, and they pack like this is an exhibition like game, like it's exhibition tournament, and they're packing out a stand or a stadium of 10,000 people. Um, and that to me was it was my first time playing with the senior team, and I had to play because Gord tweaked his calf and Durako was sick, so I had to play. But
I remember
and it
that,
was
man.
like I was, and that was the it's the craziest environment I played in. But also I have to remember like it was my first time with the senior team. So yeah, those two for me.
Yeah. I mean, especially like you guys get some pretty damn good crowds at the LEC, the Langley Event Center there for Trinity, and let's be honest, the Spartan faithful are amongst the best, some of the best fans in U Sports, in all of Canadian sports, really at that level. But it must be something completely else when people are like tailgating for your matches and
Oh
stuff.
yeah. Yeah, you want to talk about fans, man, like even the difference, like I went to a Gopher match with Sam in the fall,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like 5,500 people sold out. They got boxes, they got like the fans are like all into it, chants, everything. I'm like, man, like I would get this for like I'd get half of this for like a Can West final.
Mm-hmm.
This is just like a regular season game. I was like filming stuff. I'm just so excited. Like, what is going on? This is the sports like fans here. They're so invested in the athletes. It's really cool to see. And I want that for men's volleyball. I want that for Canadian volleyball because it's possible. Like it's clearly possible. But yeah, the women's side in the States is totally different. I mean, I feel like they set a record every year
Yeah.
for seats,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
I mean, it's the best product we have, bar none. In my opinion, like
Yeah.
to me, the NCAA sets the standard. Like World Champs doesn't set the standard. VNL doesn't set the
No.
standard. Like the FIVB thinking that they play at the same par as the NCAA is to me is laughable. It
Hmm.
just it's I don't know where if I have this term that I've coined. It's called three boomers in a trench coat, and that's how I view the FIVB. Just in the same thing as you've always seen those cartoons of like three kids stacking up on each other and wearing a trench coat to try to get into the R-rated movie. For me, it's three boomers stacking up on each other in a trench coat trying to pretend like they know what to do to run an international sporting organization, because they
Yeah.
clearly don't. And if you look at the NCAA, to me, that's the hands down the best product we have. I mean, Nebraska's hosting a game in their friggin' football field next year.
I saw that.
Like
I
that,
saw
how
that.
dope is that going to be?
Outdoor game. Like that's like NBA stuff.
Absolutely.
Like man, so cool.
And I this hurts me to admit, I've actually never seen an NCAA women's game live. That is absolutely
Really?
like this year I need to go. Like this year I need to go see a match because it's just gone far too long. And I need to go like to one of the I need to go to a Big 10 match. I need to go to a
Man, come to
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yo, if you're there and if you're there at that time, I'll definitely make my way out there and we'll do
Oh
an
yeah. We'll
that
get you some good seats.
yeah, that would be dope because man, like I would love to see it. Like just the passion, like and NCAA tournament time is some of my favorite. Just the media surrounding it, like you have commentators who actually know what they're talking about, and there's good camera angles and great like
Yeah.
replays. Like everything about it is fantastic, And you're right. Like, I'm really excited because right now you're seeing that investment into women's pro volleyball in the States, right? And you've got the two leagues that
Yeah.
like you got like the one volleyball league and then the real pro volleyball league that are both coming up
Hmm.
and both different styles. And I mean, you got like Joe Burrow and Jason Derulo investing into it, and Kevin Durant. Like, man,
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be good. Is there any, I know it's a lot to have a kid, but where's Sam's career at? Is she done? Is she planning on playing again? Like, where's she at with all that?
It's funny. We were just talking about that yesterday. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. I think we were talking about those new leagues, and I think if the dates would ever line up, or if I maybe took a took a fall off and got a contract in January or something, I think she'd be interested in playing again. Um, because I mean, with like back to the Gopher games, like I love going to them because one, I'm a nobody. Nobody knows who I am. I'm just Sam's
Yeah,
husband,
you're Sam's husband,
and
right?
yeah, and there's all these people that come up to us and they're like asking about like where she's playing, like how they loved watching her like for 4 years. They have all her like t-shirts, all this stuff, and they're like, so where are you going next year? And she's like, oh, we're going to Italy. My husband actually plays. And they're like, what? Like he plays? I'm like, she's like, yeah, like he actually plays. Like he's pretty good. They're like, oh, but like, what about you though? Like they don't care about me. Like it's awesome. I'm just support staff, and but like it's insane like how like she has like a whole fan base there because of her time in Minnesota, but because they do such a good job of like having the supporters and the student section and the fans, like I think they sell out almost every game, which is incredible.
Nuts.
Um, it's incredible. So yeah, but back to her career stuff, I'm not sure. I think it depends if we have another one sooner or later. But yeah, I think we'll see if something pops up. She'd be very interested.
Is that in the cards? Having another kid?
Yeah, I think we want to. I
Yeah,
think we want to have at least a couple more. So
a couple
yeah,
more.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
create a little
yeah,
brood.
yeah, yeah.
Just have him
I'd say
nice,
yeah.
a nice little fan section on the side there, cheering you on.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Not,
So if we go that route, then I don't think so. I think that's going to be too tough
yeah,
for her. Yeah,
absolutely. And like once again, this is volleyball, so there's a lot less of those things in place to be able to have that support system and whatnot. But
yeah,
man, that's wild. Once again, like NCAA volleyball, the best product we have
absolutely.
is unreal. I would like it would obviously it's crossed your mind. Like, how many times has it crossed your mind to being like, how amazing would it be to like, play at home? Like, how amazing would it be? Like, would you take a lesser contract in terms of money to play like at home in Canada or like even in the States?
Yeah, I think so. I think so for sure. I mean, okay, it would have to be reasonable,
Of course,
and
yeah.
it would depend how much, but for sure, a cut to play at home. Um, I think, yeah, we were talking yesterday about that new league that's going to have like 8 teams, like rotating cities in the States. Like there'll be 8 teams or something. And I'm like, man, I couldn't imagine oh yeah, just flying to Chicago for my pro volleyball match I'm getting paid for. If I hope by the time my career is coming to a close that there is something like that for men's volleyball. I know it has to be the girls to go first just because of
100%. Yeah.
their fan base. It has to be them. But I hope if I'm like a 35-year-old that maybe there's something coming up, that I could play a couple years more. So
Yeah. 10
yeah,
years, 10 years time. Yeah.
yeah,
I'll see what I can do to get it started. All right.
yeah. Please, man, please.
We'll get it going. Maybe a nice little like, and for me, like, I feel like we have to do it. I've always been a believer in let's section it off, like Canada and the States together, because we're going to need, like, for men's volleyball especially, and I think for women's volleyball too, we need each other to succeed. You know, the NFL is the only league that has no teams in Canada, and we have the CFL. But
Yeah.
like, I think we should section off, like, have a West Coast league, a Central league, you know, Minnesota, Winnipeg, Chicago, all that, then an Eastern league, and do it that way. Maybe like a little bit of crossover, but yeah, man, how much bigger would this game be if there was a way to see it at home? Like, for you, when was the first time you remember watching volleyball at like a high level, professional level? And when was the point that you started realizing that, like, volleyball could be a career? You know, because we all grow up watching Sports Center, and, you know, we can be hockey players, and we can be baseball players, and football and basketball, and in soccer, hell, even lacrosse. In Canada, we've got curling. You know, you're a Manitoba boy.
Yeah.
Lots of curling around.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Volleyball is just not really is never really a thought. You know, I've talked to so many guys on this podcast. They'd be like, yeah, you know, like, I went to university, I didn't really know pro volleyball existed, didn't really know it was a thing. And then after about my second or third year, I was just like, oh, like, I could do this professionally. I could make money. Cool. You know, that's awesome. Like, when did you have that realization?
Yeah, I think I knew about it in high school. But it always seemed like such a far-fetched dream, like that. I would hear stories like, oh, like Stevens, like, could have played pro, like he had a big contract way back in the day, he turned it down. Or like one of my dad's buddies, like, did 1 year in Holland or something, like, oh, like maybe I could do that. Like, but I was just trying to get to university, because to me that was everything. But then I think getting exposed to, like, talking to Benjo and him talking about some of the alumni, like, going overseas, and like, wow, they're like, all these guys have gone overseas and they're like living over there and playing. Like, I want to do that for sure. Like, I want to be an Olympian, you know, like those. I think as a young volleyball player, it's like Olympian is like for sure top thing you hear for volleyball. And then you get exposed to the whole pro thing, and you're like, whoa, like, this is pretty crazy. Like, there's some pretty big leagues out there. So, but yeah, I think most kids have no clue, maybe a bit more now with like YouTube and social media. But yeah, I don't think I watched a pro match until maybe my first year university. Like, one of the guys was like playing a Champions League final, and I was like, what is Lube? What is Perugia? Like, no clue. Like, yeah, so it's crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts. This is going to be controversial, but I think that if volleyball really wants to succeed, we need to stop making the Olympics the pinnacle, right? Everything we do is for the Olympics. Everything the national team does is based off the quad. Everything is prepared to the Olympics. We make that the pinnacle, right? The funding for the national team is all based off of whether or not you qualify for the Olympics or not, right? That is the absolute pinnacle. And yet, if you look at the biggest sports in the world, the Olympics are an afterthought, right? Soccer sends U23, right? If you want to go to the Olympics for soccer, you play. It's the U23s and under. The professionals, it doesn't matter to them, right? Hockey hasn't been in the Olympics like since when? You know, we had a couple Olympics with hockey players there, and even then, that's like, it's not like the national team trains for 4 years to prepare for it. No, they get together the week before, right? If that, right? Like,
yeah, they take the best guys.
They just take the best guys and they just go. Basketball, the same thing. You know, like Team USA is in, and like Wiggins was talking about that recently. He's like, yo, like, and you know, I have my own thoughts about it, but it's like, man, like giving up my summers and preparing for like, no, like, that's not something I want to do. And ultimately, I also think that like the FIVB has such a hold on volleyball because they control the qualifications to the Olympics, right? And that's the key to everything. If we were to eliminate, like, let's quit making the Olympics the be all end all within the sport and focus a lot more on pro ball and that business side of it, then I think
Yeah.
that's when volleyball is still a small sport, and people only care about it every 4 years because of because like the Olympics are the pinnacle. Once we start seeing Champions League and like even World Championships and stuff like that as bigger than the Olympics and as more important, that's when we're going to really start to see the sport grow.
Man, I love that perspective. And it's so true. Like with all these other sports, like of course all these guys who are going to play for Team USA basketball, they're only playing national team one summer, if they do play.
And it's
like
it's almost like a party, right? Like you got the banana boat crew, they come in and they get to fly private and whatnot. Like it's truly, in my opinion, and like once again, I love it, but I think it's truly hindered the growth of the sport.
Yeah. I mean, even just watching the sport, it's so hard. Like they just got to start putting things on TV channels for people to just like flick it on. I think I remember being in high school and just going through sports channels, and sometimes there'd be Big Ten matches on there. I'm like, oh, that's sick. Like, and just watch that. Or even here in Italy, like, okay, the volleyball world's got all their streaming stuff, but all the locals watch it on the sports center in Italy. Like they're not watching it on Volley World.
Yeah.
And that's why it's big here. It's because they broadcast it like for everyone. I mean, everything's getting more digital now. I think that time will change, but just growing in like different areas there's so much that pro can offer. Like that's what I love, what the out of system guys are doing with Loeppky. Like they're young guys and they're balling out. They're having a sweet season, but they're broadcasting it to people back in North America, and they're like, whoa, what is this German team doing? And what, the Bundesliga? Like, like it's awesome. I think we need more of that to keep it growing.
Yeah. 100%. I fully agree. As you said, like I remember the same thing. Like for me, I got into volleyball because the national team played like the Anton Ferlani Cup one time in Ottawa. And I was like 14 years old. I had played like school volleyball, and I was like, what is this? And I remember showing up to the games and being like, bro, this is volleyball. Like this is volleyball at the high level. Like how come they never hit the middle? How come they're always faking it? Like this is how hard they can hit. How did he get that up? Like I was blown away by it. And I literally like went to that game, went to the little Mizuno booth, talked to some people, and some woman was like, hey, how old are you? Oh, you're 14? You're tall. Do you want to come try out for a volleyball team tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I went to a volleyball tryout. 10 guys showed up for a 12-man team, and like the rest is history. That's how I got into volleyball. But like if I hadn't gone to that match, actually it's thanks to Steve Brinkman. My mom was on a flight. Yeah, my mom was on a flight with Steve Brinkman from Germany like earlier this summer. That was like what, it was 2016. No, sorry, 2006. Shit, I'm showing my age right now. 2006, and because it was right during the World Cup at the time, soccer World Cup, and there's a big tall guy wearing a Team Canada tracksuit. So my mom's like, "Oh, who's this?" And like went and talked to him. And then later on in that summer, the promos came out via the email from the Corel Center at the time, which is the hockey arena in Ottawa, and he was on the promo. And she was like, "Oh, you played volleyball? This is the guy that I saw. Let's go see some games." And like that. Literally that night changed my life, because now, here I am, and I've wasted thousands of dollars covering volleyball around the world and everything. But that exposure is just absolutely massive. And like how awesome would it have been to be able to like talk with your friends about volleyball, at club practice or whatever. Like we talked about everything else. Like we talked about basketball, like we talked about hockey. Like I think it would change so much if we were able to watch the sport at that level,
Yeah. Once every 4 years isn't enough, because that's when the average Canadian would watch volleyball, is like, oh, it's on CBC every 4 years. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So I agree with you, man.
Yeah. It's also frustrating. Like I do think Volleyball World does a good job, but then, you're listening to it and be like, so by the way, the libero is the different color jersey. It's like, guys, we know.
Yeah.
No random person is gonna go like somehow go onto Volleyball World, spend all of that money to buy a subscription, and not know anything about volleyball. You know, and I've had conversations with the people like with like, well, you know, like we got to cater to the new fans. It's like, what new fans? What new fans are
Yeah, it's
spending
the diehards.
are spending? No, like I want an NFL style broadcast where we've got, you know, proper statistics, you know, bringing in diagrams. Like let's make this let's make this a little bit better. You know, let's make this a Big Ten broadcast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree, man. I think like okay, huge step to them was like getting some English like commentators.
yeah,
I think that was huge. I think they even have Japanese for some games now too, which is
dude, the Japanese broadcast I think is way better. I don't know what's going on. I don't understand anything. But
yeah,
there's two
yeah,
commentators, and like you can tell they know like I have as especially as someone who has commentated a lot of volleyball, and I think myself as a very good commentator, and who has
yeah.
been suggested into the volleyball world commentators and just gets snuffed every time. I have issues with the commentators. I will say that right now. The amount of times
All right.
that like I don't know how much you watch a volleyball world, but the amount of times that the guys are just they treat it like tennis. They treat it like soccer. There's no in-depth analysis. You know, unless Rob is doing it, who's the guy that I do the 9x9 with, and a few
Yeah,
of the other American guys, like Key Michael, of course, she's great, and Matt Prosser's getting better too. Unless those people are doing like those English dudes, like the English, like man, they sometimes
yeah.
they treat it like chess, and it's just not fun to watch. It's not fun to
Uh,
watch. That and we need a
and
baseline angle. The fans of this show are just going to be like, okay, Everett, shut up about the baseline angle, shut up about the commentators. But I have a new person to talk to this about.
all right. Yeah, baseline would be cool. I mean, and I haven't listened to much of the English stuff just because I flick it on and it just goes to Italian. But yeah, man, I mean I know it's like a painful process getting it going, and I'm just hoping they don't screw it up. Like I want it to I would love to like just, but you know, we could talk about this all day.
Yeah, we could. I mean, hey, I also hope they don't screw it up, but I've been involved in volleyball long enough, and I know the people in power, and unfortunately,
Yeah.
there's been a precedent set. Switching from this topic because you have said it. You know, we could go on this all day. You know, as we grow up within this sport, there's always guys that are universally known. You know, the Brunos and the Engapeths and so on. What's it been like to be able to, you know, not only not only see them play in person, but like share the court with them and go head to head with them and be one of their peers? You know, what's that transition like? Because we have so many players that go play professionally, but they never get to play against the best players. You know, and you're in
Right.
the best league of the world, going toe to toe with literally the best players. Do you ever have to like center yourself and be like, "Yo, I'm in it. I'm with it."
Yeah, I think there's like that switch of being like I remember my first year Italy, it's like every team has kind of got some teams have multiple, but every team's kind of got a superstar or two. And I'm like, all right, I've seen all those guys' highlights. That guy has no idea who I am, but I have to go play him tonight. It was kind of like that. But I feel like now it's at the point where it's like I see the guys and they like say, "What's up?" Like they know who I am, and they like ask me how I'm doing, and like I'm like, wow, like that's kind of I'm one of these guys now, like that I can compete with them. So yeah, I think it's changed a lot since my first year. But I mean, hey, back to Gord. That was some of the best advice he ever gave me was as soon as you realize you're one of these guys, the sooner the better, basically. So I think I really took that to heart, and I feel that now. But it is cool being able to like I don't ever I'm never going to be the type of player where I'm like I'm too good for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I love like just learning. Like I respect them. I'm like, oh man, like I'm playing against Ngapeth, and I'm like, man, that was so cool that he did that. Like maybe I'm gonna try to do something like that, or like, like I'm more inspired. I think I'm inspired by them. Uh, and I just love learning and I love competing and I love the challenge of playing against them. So for me, it's just great. Yeah, I love it.
How impactful has, like, you've brought up Gord a few times now. How impactful has he been on your career? Because he changed, like as we talked about, he changed the trajectory of Canadian volleyball in so many ways and has been such a role model with the sport. How impactful has he been for you, and how much have you leaned on him to kind of learn from him?
Yeah, I mean, Gord's a quiet guy. Like he kind of like he's just like was always there. He's just kind of Gord, Captain Gord. But I think I always looked up to him as I always saw the outsides. Like you had like Gord, you had like kind of like Mar and Hogue, kind of like the spiker blocker server type of outsides. Like love watching their stuff. You had some more maybe technical outsides, like Barnes and Marshall and those guys. But I always saw Gord as like the guy who he was good at everything, and that's what made him great internationally. Like he was a good attacker, blocker. His reception was great. Like he was just good, and I'm like I want to be like that. I want to be try to be good at everything. And I mean, yeah. So I think I've always looked up to him from that aspect. And yeah, I remember as a young guy, I just bouncing questions off him. Like I just felt like a little, just like a sponge trying to soak in everything I could from him and from a lot of the other guys I've learned a lot too. Like Steve Marr's been a big influence of mine, and Nick and uh, and those guys. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, Gord was definitely kind of like the quieter, like but I want to like model my game kind of maybe after him. That would have been Gord to me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you talk about Mar. Mar is the guy who, before you, was the first guy to go to Italy right out of university. Was the first guy to kind
Hmm.
of like put his mark. He's been having such a great season this year. It's been awesome to see, like the three Canadians in the Italian league this year. You, Mar, and Schwartz have all been having great seasons. And if you do choose to play national team, once again, no pressure. I think it's I think it would be awesome. Do you ever have that notion that, like, do you ever have that awareness that, like, in the eyes of a Canadian volleyball fan, like, you're now one of those guys too, that, like, you're a guy that people watch dominate at the U Sport level and be one of the best players to ever play the game, like at that level, and now you're having success internationally too, and on the professional stage. Is that an awareness that you have?
And I honestly, I don't think of it too much just because it's like being so far from home, you don't feel like that. Um, and I think that's just the truth. And I haven't played on Canadian soil before since I want
Oh
like
yeah.
some like I've never played in Ottawa, so yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like that, like, oh man, I'm the Canadian guy that a lot of people are watching. I think yeah, you are one of the first that's brought that to my attention. So I don't think of that, to be honest, too much.
That's fair. I mean, I think you're right in a certain sense that, like, even though, if for the hardcore people you are, like on
Yes.
on our
Yeah,
on
yeah,
our
yeah.
on our Discord, and the people who watch U Sports and are aware of professional volleyball, like, you are one of those guys. But I can definitely see your point. How you've never played at home. You haven't really played that much VNL. You didn't really play at the Olympics and stuff like that. So, like,
Hmm.
the casual fan may not know who you are just yet, but they will. They will. It's I mean, I think it's inevitable. I mean, it's I see it as in, like, people, like, your play that you started, that move that you started to do, where you'd fake swing with your right and tip with your left, that you started doing at Trinity. Like, there's kids I've
Hmm.
seen call that the Loeppky. Like, just so you're
Really?
aware, they call that the Loeppky
Wow.
out there.
That's pretty cool. Wow. Um, I mean, that makes me pumped that there's like young kids doing stuff like that, because I had zero concept of anything like that probably when I was their age. So that fires me up. Thanks for telling me that.
Hey, no problem. I mean, it's fun to watch because we talk about Gord and we talk about Mar, and both of those are very physical dudes. And I'm not saying you're
Hmm.
not physical because you're still pretty big, but you're not their size, and you approach the
Yeah.
game at such a different way. And I mean, especially with all of that no easy bucket stuff that they've been posting, and the ways that you score, especially out of system, and with the fake tips and pushing, wiping it on the off the blocks and whatnot, and you still have that ability to go, thumb down and thumb up, and you have so many shots. Is that something that you continue to develop as you're playing professionally? Like, is it something that you have to do, especially playing in the best league in the world, to really push yourself to be amongst the best?
Absolutely. I think I pride myself in being able to score in a variety of different ways. And I think that has been maybe a reason for my success, like especially this year. Because I think going from university to the international level, it was kind of like, okay, university, like, yeah, I was doing fun stuff. I was doing different stuff, bringing some international kind of shots to university, that I learned over the summer. But I could swing like sharp cross or high cross and probably score most of the time, just, um, but here it's like, okay, like the block's faster, it's bigger. You have to be able to score different ways. And I think, I'm constantly, that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about like admiring other players. I'm constantly watching other guys, like what they're doing, because I love learning new ways to score and trying new ways. Like I love looking what DeFalco's doing. I think he's so gifted at scoring. And Gopeth and all those guys. So yeah, I think it's something that I feel like I have made my own, different from maybe the classic Canadian outside spiker, which I think is cool.
You bring up DeFalco, and I think that's fitting because especially amongst the Discord earlier on when you guys were both coming out of university and in your early careers, there was a lot of Eric Loeppky versus TJ DeFalco, like who's better and all that.
Mm.
One of my biggest what ifs was that if I really wish that DeFalco and Ensing and Tuniga and that core guys at LBSU were playing for LBSU once at that Can-Am event back in 2019. Like
Just
that,
1 year earlier.
just 1 year earlier. Absolutely, man. If we could have seen that core of Trinity guys with you and Kern and Epp and Ashenko and whatnot go up against that guy, man, that would have been one of the greatest matches of all time. Like that would have just
Yeah.
been phenomenal. It's funny that you say that you not necessarily like look up to him, but you look to him for inspiration. Do you ever feel that like there's some competition there because he's in a lot of ways like the American version of you?
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think I just respect him. I think I have nothing but respect for him. And yeah, I just like watching because I like trying to watch guys like who have a similar like build or
Yeah,
like kind of repertoire. Like I could watch Leon Spike all day, but I'm not going to do what he can do,
yeah,
Like it just doesn't make sense. So for me, I like listening to what he has to say, and I like that he's kind of comes from a beach background too, because I love beach. So yeah, I have nothing but respect for him, and I wish, man, that we could have played their Long Beach team. I think that would have been epic. Even that UCLA team that year too, with like Mike Ma and those guys, it would have been fun. It would have been a really cool tournament.
yeah. It would have been. It's so like it's just another reason why I think we should double down on U Sport volleyball to the fact that it's the only sport that we play at par with the NCAA. It's the only sport that
Yeah.
that our guys can go our best go toe to toe with their best, and you have guys who go down to the states and they're like Kofi was the like on that you talk about that UCLA team, like their best hitter
Yeah.
was was Dan and Gima, like Kofi kid, who was who was a Canadian guy. You know, Skylar Vargas playing down at like next year. Long Beach is going to be interesting because they're picking up Skylar Vargas down there. I don't the SAS kid.
Yeah.
Who
He's sweet.
Yeah,
Big fan.
he unfortunately got injured. Had to get knee surgery, so he won't be. He doesn't waste a year, but they're also picking up a really talented kid from here in the Toronto area, just up in Markham, Daniil Hrstanovic. Who's like he's a big 6'8", 6'9" left side. And so it could LBSU might have a little bit more of a Canadian flair out there, which I
awesome.
which I really like, but at the same time I do think it like part of what makes U Sports so strong is that we keep our best guys here in Canada, you know. And so like U Sports isn't as strong if you go down to the States. And even Mar was slated to go to Hawaii, right? I don't know if you know that, and then changed it at the last.
All those Crush guys, right?
Yeah, Mar was slated to go Hawaii. Coker went down to UCSB for a year and then came back and played. And then same thing with Lucas Coleman. Lucas Coleman spent a year at a semester at BYU, and then came back to play at Ryerson. Danny was the one who stayed and played. You mentioned beach. Is that ever a thing for you in the future? You ever, there's some rumblings of some like national team guys. I don't really want to like talk about it here, but some former international team guys who will be suiting up on the beach this year. Is that ever something that you thought about? Like once your indoor career is done, just go and rip up a few beach tournaments, go see if you could hack it on the world tour. Hell, like you could have green card status because you live in the States, so you could play AVP.
Yeah, exactly. I think about it all the time. I actually, do you know who Tim Baumgren is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's from Minnesota. So when I'm in Minneapolis, I train with him all the time.
Oh, sick.
And yeah, he's a great guy. He's like, man, you should come play. Like, so if I ever do not play in the summers, I think for sure. And I don't have my green card now, but I'm trying to apply. So if that's ever a thing, man. I would love to play in AVP. I think it'd be awesome. I like what they're doing too. I think they're trying to really grow it. There's something going on in Miami. This they're doing some King of the Beach thing.
King of the Beach is another entity within volleyball, and it's like a different format. It's just like you play like King's Court at practice. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You can only score points on one side. You have to win to get over. They have international, like they have teams made up with like different international guys and girls too. It's like a fun party format. I was trying to get them to pay me to go down because I'm too broke to go pay for myself. But unfortunately they wouldn't do it. So yeah. But man, if you go AVP, you let me know. I'll come hang out for sure because that would be dope to see you on the beach. If you weren't playing volleyball though, what sport would you be playing?
Probably basketball. I love basketball.
Yeah. Did you play a lot of basketball in high school?
Yeah, I played right till my grade 12 year.
Point guard, shooting guard. What are we talking about here? What position?
I was point guard.
Yeah. Are you pass first or shoot first? Like what style of game are you?
I'd say. I mean, man, I played at Steinbach. Manitoba basketball is nothing compared to Ontario basketball, that's for sure. So I moved the ball around and I got open for some shots too. So
could you dunk back then?
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense.
It's actually funny. Trinity, I was already committed to Trinity, and they came and watched one of my high school basketball games because they were playing U of M, and I had a tournament. So Benjo brought the guys out. Had my best game of the year. So yeah, it was hilarious. Yeah.
Oh man, that's jokes. They come out to watch your high school basketball tournament. And that was back with like Schreimer and I guess Del Bianco and Shearhorn and Sclater and all of those guys.
Yeah, they were like all cheering for me and stuff. I was pretty embarrassed, but I thought it was cool.
Yeah. Speaking of Trinity, they just won their first round matchup in the U Sports. Now, obviously, with Benjo going to the national team and everything like that, a lot of change within that program. Now, he built that program to be the Canadian power, like literally internationally known. Um, what do you think, like, with Ben Ball and Adam Schreimer taking over the program? Do you think they're going to be able to keep it up? Like, do you think that culture is going to be able to continue on? Is Trinity going to continue being one of the best volleyball programs in post-secondary volleyball in North America, period?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, well, I think first what Ben did was amazing, but I think yeah, Adam and Ben are the guys to kind of take it over. Ben has been there really ever since he stopped playing, um, 10 years ago with Ben. So I think the two of them together work really well because Ben's kind of been there for some time, but then Adam is like, yeah, I think Adam's just amazing. He's so volleyball inclined. He loves volleyball. He's given everything he's got to the program. So yeah, I have high hopes as an alumni for uh for the program, and I think that was a big part too of Ben leaving was like he entrusts them. So if Ben entrusts them, I think the program's in great hands.
What is it with Trinity Setters just not going to play pro and just staying with the program? Because Ep is the first guy to kind of break that curse. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah,
He's in his first year here, but
yeah,
like, man, both Ben Ball and like people were talking about it in the Discord the other day about, Schreimer couldn't really hack a pro, and I was like, man, Schreimer could have hacked a pro. Like, Schreimer could have been the guy for the national team in my opinion,
yeah, yeah.
and he chose not to. Like, he chose to go back. So what is it about these Trinity Setters who just chose not to go? And like, once again, no slight against them, but
Yeah.
like, what is it about that culture that they just want to stay there and just hang out for the rest of their lives?
Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know. It's just there. I think Ben just gets them so obsessed with volleyball, and then they go play, and they're like, man, like playing sweet, but I just want to coach. I got to share my knowledge, maybe. So yeah, because Adam did 1 year. He had a
Yeah, good year in
great year
Limburg.
overseas, and Glenn had him with the national team, and it was like Adam, like I think was pretty transparent with Glenn. Like Glenn, like I'm done, but Glenn was like, no, we need you, please, please, please. He's like come to all these things, and he's like, okay, like so he rode out the summer with the guys and did great when he went in, and yeah, it's I don't know, it must be yeah, it must be just the way Ben kind of teaches them to stick around.
Yeah, I mean, I think so highly of Adam, and I remember when I met him, his brother Matt was playing beach for Manitoba at the Canada Games back in 2013. And like, when
Oh
I
yeah,
talked to Matt, he was all like, and Adam was there watching, and he was all about like, oh, you have to like know about my brother. He's going to Trinity and blah blah blah, all this stuff. And I mean, he was one of the greatest ever to rock that program. So it's
oh yeah,
is it almost a letdown going from Trinity Western, where there's so much support and it's such a brotherhood, to going to play professionally? Like, is it almost a step down in some ways, like leaving that program to go out into the greater volleyball world? Is that why we're seeing so many legends like Ben Ball, Adam Schreimer, Nick Del Bianco just kind of like do it for a little bit and be like, actually, no, I'm just going to go? And because once again, and Nick Del Bianco was another guy who spent like two, maybe
yeah,
3 years playing professionally, and then now I know he's based out of Edmonton or Calgary
yeah,
in Alberta, but he's still like tied to that Trinity team. It's like, what is it about
yeah,
Trinity that just makes you guys love volleyball so much and then just quit once you're gone?
yeah. I don't know. I think maybe it's a bit of the. It depends how you look at it. If you're talking just for career stuff, you would say that it's negative, but maybe for life, you'd say it's positive. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, but I think there's just such a brotherhood in the way Ben kind of structures everything. It's such a fun environment, and it's such a going from like such a team environment to pro, unless you like, unless you're like really dialed on it, like unless you really want it. I think it's a tough adjustment, because Ben makes volleyball so fun, and you go to pro, and it's a huge switch coming from anywhere because it's your job now. So and then you kind of have to make that decision, okay, like how much money I'm making versus how much I'm enjoying this. So I think that's a challenge coming from anywhere, but I think especially from Trinity because
It's different.
it's just it's just different. And even talking to Sam, like from the what they go to in the NCAA facilities wise and like sponsor wise and gear wise and like how they're taken care of, it's like they're playing like NCAA, they're playing a professional sport.
Mm-hmm.
And like she went from like all they're flying private charter jets, whatever, all this
Really?
stuff to
And they're pl-
yeah, they would she would fly Minnesota's private plane like it would be the football team's plane, but still the volleyball team would take it for games and then they fly
crazy.
whenever they want. Yeah, no, it's insane. Like, and I came from Trinity. I came from like, man, I feel like we had it pretty good for Canada. Uh, I'm like, we had like Lululemon gear sometimes. I'm like, oh, that's sick. And they're like the boxes that I've gone through of her gear is insane. But like, she went from playing in stadiums, like packed stadiums, private jets, Final Four, all whatever, all that stuff, to like going to France, like okay, she's getting paid now, but the facilities are a fraction of what she's and the trainers and the treatments and just the tech and practice. Like it's a big adjustment, I think, for those girls. Um, so yeah, I don't know, but sorry, that was kind of a sidetrack there, but
No, go for it.
yeah, definitely a change, definitely a change.
Yeah, it's definitely something that, once again, we've talked about it. If we had something that supported it within North America, I don't think we would see that much. But you know what? It's on the horizon. It's coming, especially for
Yeah,
the women. There's exciting times right now. So I think it's going to be good. Well, dude, I've taken up a lot of your time. Like I've honestly, I feel like I could talk to you all day.
me too, man, me too.
It's so good to chat with you. I've been unbelievably proud and happy for you to watch you succeed this year.
Thank you.
Because as I said, I was a little bit worried after the summer that you
Yeah.
had, and as I said, like,
Hey, fair enough.
hey, and like struggles happen, but the fact that
Yeah.
you're able to bounce back the way you have and have such a strong year has been so much fun to watch. To think that that little kid that I interviewed almost 10 years ago now, back in
That's
back in
crazy.
back in Calgary, wearing a Windman jersey is nuts, and I'm as I said, I'm super happy for you in everything that you've accomplished this year. And you know what, regardless if you play for the national team or not this summer, definitely hope I run into you and see you. And yeah, is there anything you want to mention, anything you want to say, any questions you have for me before we head out, and you give me some behind the scenes information before we log
Yeah,
off?
sure. No, I just want to say thank you, man. Like I appreciate what you do for the sport. You've been yeah, I feel like ever since you've been kind of the person who introduced me to the volleyball spotlight a little bit. Like that was my first kind of appearance at nationals and everything way back when. So I feel like it's been cool getting to know you the past almost 10 years. And yeah, I appreciate everything you do, man.
Ah,
So keep it up.
man, you keep it up. It gives me something to talk about. All right, so probably not playing this weekend against Perugia, right? As we still recover and take your
Yeah.
time, but it looks like you're going to be back for the back for the end of the season against Milano in 2 weeks' time. Let's see. Let's just pull up the calendar real quick
Hmm.
and oh no, that's the playoffs. Unfortunately, no playoffs this year for your team. But yeah, Milano. That's going to be on Sunday, March 12th.
Yeah.
So you guys can head over to volleyballworld.tv to check that out. As always, make sure you guys come and join the Discord. Eric, I think you should make like a covert, like almost a burner Discord account, and just come in
All
and
right.
like drop some rumors, whether they're true or not. And
Just start making them up.
yeah, just start some shit.
All right.
I think it would be fun. I think
Okay.
it would be a good time. But yeah, dude. Best of luck with the rest of the season, and just so you know, whatever you decide to do this summer, I support you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
All right. Guys, as we said, you can check out Mr. Loeppky here in his last game of the Italian SuperLega season on Sunday, March 12th, as Taranto takes on Milano. Who does Siena play? Because that's the Unbeaten. Siena plays Monza, and they play Verona. I think they have. Oh no, they played Lube the other day. So hopefully 2 losses. Hopefully our boy Stephen Marr and Arthur Schwartz take care of them, so you guys can stay up. Awesome. Well, guys, thanks very much, and we'll see you next time. Peace.